Hello, in this video I want to answer the question what is so evil about Hitler? And to many of you this might seem like an absurd question. After all, we do know that the guy started World War II, killed 6 million Jews and also many other groups that he saw unworthy of existence, such as gypsies, drug addicts, gay people. But still, there are many ways in which Hitler's regime was extremely evil that are not often discussed. So let us first start with an observation. The Weimar Republic was one of the most culturally and socially progressive countries in Europe. After the defeat of the monarchist Germany in World War I, the Weimar Republic became one of the most progressive countries in the world. They gave the right to vote to women, which France did only in 1944, and in 1929 they even legalized gay sex between men, which was extremely progressive for the time. Not to mention that generally the Weimar Republic was the place where almost all drugs were legalized, German expressionism flourished, crazy parties with Charleston dance occurred regularly, cabarets. There's that great movie Cabaret. If you want to check out a movie about the social life in the Weimar Republic. But all of this great progress and flourishment of art was ended with Hitler coming to power. But the same cannot be said about, for example, the Soviet Union, which is often compared to Hitler, to Nazi Germany, by the liberals. Well, why is that? Because the Russian Empire was one of the most regressive countries in Europe, the most anti-Semitic country. It was, it was still an empire. Of course, Nazi Germany managed to be even more anti-Semitic. Blood vengeance was still a mainstream way of thinking in the Russian Empire when Stalin came to power, and tribal identity was still strong. Their female rights didn't exist. Abortion was illegal, and communists, while they did kill a lot of people, they definitely did make the country more progressive. While on the other hand, Hitler took one of the most progressive countries of the world and descended it back into the darkness of the medieval age. And here's just one example of this great social regression that occurred in Germany. Well, first of all, Hitler split the population in two groups, those with pure blood and those with impure blood. And if we look at Nazi laws about rape, it becomes obvious how absurdly regressive Hitler's regime was. In the German law, it was prescribed that if an Aryan woman was raped by a man of impure blood, she is to be put to death. That's how Hitler saw female rights and rape in Nazi Germany. An extremely regressive law that is not often brought up in discussions about Hitler and the cultural regression that he caused in his country. Then there is one other thing that makes Hitler uniquely evil. This map shows the allies of Hitler and his enemies. Well, if you look at this map, it becomes obvious that Hitler pretty much attacked the entire world. Just by attacking France and Britain, he attacked 50% of the globe if we count British and French colonies as being at war with Hitler. And then he went on to attack the Soviet Union and, of course, the United States, which is one of those mysterious events that is still discussed by historians. There are many theories for why he declared war on the US. Maybe he was afraid that the US is going to attack him, so he wanted to have a psychological advantage, but still, it was a crazy thing to do. And very rarely in history, in fact, never did a single country attack so many other countries. So Hitler is uniquely evil when it comes to simply the amount of countries that he went to war with, and also he wanted world domination. unlike Mussolini, for example, Hitler really did want to dominate the world, which made him cartoonishly evil. Then one other fact that makes Nazi Germany cartoonishly evil is the fact that they not only occupied the Soviet territory, they annexed it, they proclaimed it to be a part of Germany. And very rarely in history did colonial regimes annex land that they occupied. The only examples that come to mind are the French in Algeria. They literally made Algeria a part of French soil, which does make it also a very evil thing to do. And here we can see the French police shooting at their own people for protesting against the war in Algeria. But the war in Congo is also one of the few examples of colonialism that is comparable to Hitler. And one other thing that makes Hitler's ideology absurdly evil is the form that his anti-Semitism took. Many regimes throughout history discriminated against the Jews, and in Christian countries it was a religious form of anti-Semitism. And Hitler even did use Christian anti-Semitic propaganda in order to get people on his side. Here we can see a anti-Semitic image of a wandering Jew. That was a medieval legend that talked about Christ cursing a Jewish man that made fun of him when he was on the cross. And according to this legend, Christ cursed this Jewish man to live until the day of judgment as punishment. And that man, in the mind of medieval people, began to kind of stand for all the Jewish people. And here the Nazis used that same medieval legend, the Ewige Jude. They called this Jew from medieval times, that of course never existed. But for Hitler, Jews weren't evil because of their religion. And after all, you can change your religion, but you cannot change your race. And that's why he was so obsessed with exterminating every single one of them. And we can't say the same thing for example, Stalin and rich peasants. Stalin's goal was never to kill every single rich peasant on earth, while Hitler's hatred was so strong that he even spoke of killing all the American Jews once he conquers the United States. While Stalin, for example, he never spoke of killing all the capitalists in America once he dominates the United States, because after all he actually did knew that that's never going to happen, nor did he want to conquer the United States. I'm talking about Stalin. And Overy also makes the case in his book The Dictators that Hitler's regimes was actually so evil that they killed parts of their own workforce, the Jewish workforce, in the camps. Now, I was convinced that Nazis were at least rational enough to kill the Jews by making them work so hard, which is the same technique that fascists used in, for example, Croatia and many other countries. But the German fascists at that time, they killed some of their workforce that was still, relatively speaking, healthy and could have worked in the mines or in the fields, but they killed them with gas while they were still relatively healthy, out of hatred. And now one other thing that was famously mentioned by one of the best American Sovietologists, George Kennan. And Truman actually required all his generals to read this observation. Kennan made the case that he actually talked about why Stalin is less of an evil than Hitler. And he said that we can have peace with Stalin, he argued, while he said peace with Hitler is impossible. And why is that? Because Hitler violated every single serious agreement that he ever made on the international stage. Here we can see the document that Chamberlain naively called a peace for our time. Then Hitler, after signing the document, attacked Czechoslovakia again after taking the Sudetenland, and then he went on to attack Poland. So twice he broke the same agreement, and by attacking Poland he also broke the non-aggression pact that he had with Poland. Then he signed, previously he had signed the anti-Comintern pact with Japan, that the pact essentially claimed that they will both fight communism, but then he betrayed the Japanese by signing the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact to then go on and betray Stalin and attack Stalin and break even the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact that was supposed to guarantee peace for 10 years. So, and that's why Stalin called that attack a treacherous war. Not to mention that Hitler never even declared the war on the Soviet Union in order to confuse them. And it worked, but it is also something that could be considered punching below the belt. After all the other regimes in that war did declare war on each other, and they still held this ancient principle of declaring the war. They still did not betray this principle, but Hitler did. And yeah, he did attack the Soviet Union and cause one of the biggest genocides that ever happened in history. And for end, I want to emphasize one of the bizarre facts about German concentration camps that are also not often discussed. SS Totenkopf, one of the most evil divisions in human history, was famous for pointless torture of the Jews. And what do I mean when I say pointless torture? Well, both people in gulags and in concentration camps were tortured simply by being there. They didn't get properly fed, they had to work, but the SS Totenkopf engaged in pointless torture. So what do I mean by that? Jews were forced to dig out holes during the day, and during the night the boys from the SS Totenkopf division, you can see them on this picture, forced them to put the earth back into the hole, and the Jews were forced to do this until they die. So that was utilized as psychological torture. Jews knew that they were actually being enslaved for no reason at all. Their entire purpose was just to dig out the hole and then put the earth back. While in gulags, as horrible as they were, people were generally only tortured when they tried to run away. Of course, torture did occur unofficially, and Stalin didn't really care to prevent it, but the regime itself did not incentivize torture against people that were actually obedient, while the Jews, even if they were obedient, they were just getting tortured, at least if we are talking about the SS Totenkopf division. But okay, that's all for this video, and I hope that you learned something new about Hitler and how evil he was. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.